This meal is for people who have our back, my dad said, while toasting my brother, whom I financed the car for. Let's not pretend. I put down my glass, nodded, and drove home. The next day, the watch warranty was revoked. The shared card was canceled, and their mortgage payment bounced. My phone exploded with missed calls. I just texted. I was furious. I sat there at that table wondering why I keep showing up for people who only remember I exist when they need something. The worst part was I knew they didn't even want me there. The dinner was for my brother. He had just landed some job in marketing. Nothing spectacular, but the way my parents acted, you'd think he cured cancer. My mom booked a table at Campanella, one of those places where the lights are low and the wine list has its own leather folder. A few days before, she dropped it into a text. "We're doing dinner for Ryan on Friday. You can come if you want." Like it was a community event and she wasn't sure if I'd fit in. I showed up right on time. Of course I did. I always did. Still, nobody seemed to notice. My mom was fussing with the wine menu. My dad and Ryan were mid-story, laughing about something involving his new manager. The only open seat was across from Ryan, next to my dad. I sat down, poured myself a glass from the bottle I brought, one of the good ones, something I knew they wouldn't splurge on themselves, and waited for someone to acknowledge me. They didn't. The conversation stayed, centered around Ryan's new condo, new job, new car, all the things I had helped make possible. No one mentioned that, of course. No one talked about how Ryan called me 5 months ago, desperate for help with the down payment, how he needed someone to co-sign the car loan, how his credit wasn't good enough on its own. He promised to pay me back, said it was just to get him started. And me? I wanted to be part of the family. I wanted to be needed. So I said yes. They laughed and toasted and told stories about Ryan's grind. I stayed quiet, chewing through overpriced calamari and nodding like some distant relative who barely made the guest list. Then my dad stood up. He raised his glass, faced Ryan and said, "This meal is for people who have our back." There was a pause. Then he smiled and added, "Let's not pretend." I didn't flinch. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him, then at my brother, then at my wine. Nobody corrected him. Nobody said anything at all. I set my glass down, stood up, and told them I had work in the morning. No goodbyes, no hugs. I left, walked to my car, and drove home without turning on the radio. The next morning, I opened the credit card app and shut it down. The shared card they used weekly closed. I went to the warranty site for my dad's watch, canceled the service I paid for. Then I logged into the bank portal and halted the mortgage payment that came out of my account every month. They just didn't talk about it. By mid-morning, the calls started. 3 from my mom, frantic voicemails asking if something was wrong. 2 from my dad. 1 text. Mortgage payment bounced. Is this a mistake? And Ryan. He went straight to panic. First, "Hey bro, you good?" Then 4 missed calls. Then a screenshot of his bank balance and a sad emoji. I didn't answer. I sent them all the same text. Let's not pretend. I thought silence would speak for itself. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd sit with what they said, with what they didn't say, and realize the weight of it, that someone in the family would reach out like they actually meant it, but I was wrong. They didn't pause. They panicked. It started the next morning. I hadn't even made coffee yet when I got a string of texts from Ryan. No apologies, just confusion like, "Yo, what's going on with the card?" And, "Did you cancel it by mistake?" As if this was all some accidental glitch. I ignored him. 10 minutes later, he was outside my apartment. He didn't knock right away. I watched him through the blinds. He paced for a bit, checked his phone, then finally knocked lightly, like he didn't want to wake a neighbor. I didn't answer. He knocked again, then sent a message while standing there. "Come on, man. Don't make this weird. We're brothers." I stood still, heart pounding, not from guilt but from restraint. Because if I opened that door, I wouldn't be calm. I didn't owe him peace anymore. So I waited. He eventually left. And 20 minutes later, he was posting on Instagram from some trendy cafe, smiling with a cappuccino like nothing had happened. The same jacket I bought him last Christmas, zipped halfway up. The car I paid for parked right outside behind him in the photo. Then it was my mom's turn. She called 3 times in an hour. When I didn't answer, she sent a voice message. I listened to the first 10 seconds and turned it off. Her voice cracked, not with guilt, but with that same condescending worry she always used when I was too emotional growing up, like I was throwing a tantrum. A few hours later, I got a long text. She said I had taken things too personally, that I must have misheard the toast. She said it was just a joke, and I was always too sensitive. Then she hit me with a line that made my jaw clench. This family has always been there for you. Don't erase that over one dinner. One dinner. That's all it was to them. Just a little slip up. They didn't want to see that this wasn't about the toast. It was about everything before it. Years of being tolerated instead of appreciated. Years of being useful instead of loved. I went to my desk and pulled up the car loan documents. Everything was in my name, my credit, my income, my risk. He couldn't have gotten it without me. He barely even skimmed the forms when I handed them to him. He just said, "Thanks, bro. Seriously." And started looking up rims. Then came the email from my dad. Subject: Let's clear the air. No salutation, no warmth, just a cold paragraph about how he'd always taught us to keep money and emotions separate, and how maybe I'd gotten too involved. He said I was taking a controlling role and making the family uncomfortable. He even said I might need to rethink how I view loyalty. That one hit me different. Not because it was harsh, but because it was so distant, like I was some external threat instead of his son. Then came the email from my dad. Subject: Let's clear the air. No salutation, no warmth, just a cold paragraph about how he'd always taught us to keep money and emotions separate, and how maybe I'd gotten too involved. He said I was taking a controlling role and making the family uncomfortable. He even said I might need to rethink how I view loyalty. That one hit me different. Not because it was harsh, but because it was so distant, like I was some external threat instead of his son. That night, I got a fraud alert on the shared credit account I had shut down. Someone, definitely one of them, had tried to access it. I checked the logs. It was from my parents' zip code. I also got a call from the watch warranty company saying someone tried to impersonate me to reinstate the coverage. They flagged the account. My name was locked, account sealed. By day 3, they were out of moves. I saw the mortgage payment fail again, this time with a bounce transaction attempt from an old checking account I had once added them to for emergencies. They were grasping now. Then came the message from Ryan. No greeting, no apology, just this. You're blowing this up for no reason. I didn't ask you to do all that. Like none of it mattered. Like he hadn't begged for help on the phone 6 months ago, crying because he couldn't keep taking the bus to interviews. Like I hadn't told him I'd take care of it, and he hadn't said, "You saved my life, man." It was gone. All of it erased the moment I stopped being useful. That night, I logged into the vehicle account, called the bank, and scheduled a repossession. I wasn't making a point anymore. I was taking back what was mine. The truck came at 6:47 a.m. I watched it pull up from my car down the block. I wasn't going to miss this part. I needed to see it. Not out of spite, but clarity. Proof that I wasn't just imagining all those years I gave and got nothing in return. Ryan's car was right there in their driveway. Same as always. He always parked like the driveway was his personal showroom. It still had the custom plate, his Instagram handle. I paid for that too. The repo guy did it fast. No knock, no warning. Hooked it in under 90 seconds. Ryan must have been sleeping. He didn't show up until the back wheels were already off the ground. He ran outside in socks and gym shorts, yelling something I couldn't hear. The driver just handed him a paper and got back in the truck. Ryan threw it on the grass. He was on his phone before the truck was even gone, probably calling me. I didn't answer. That afternoon, the texts started again. He wasn't angry. Not at first. He went straight for guilt. Told me I embarrassed him. Said he had a date that night, and now he had to explain why he was taking the bus. Told me people in the neighborhood saw the truck and asked questions. I let him text. Then my mom called again. She left a voicemail this time. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't apologize. She just said, "Whatever point you're trying to make, Robert, you've made it. Enough is enough." Enough for who? I spent the rest of that day going through old financial records. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to remember how much I had done, all the things they'd conveniently forgotten. I found the lease I'd co-signed on for Ryan back in 2019. He had broken it early and never paid the penalty. I covered it. I found the $900 I sent my mom when the refrigerator broke down. The same fridge they told their neighbors Ryan bought. I found emails from the bank showing how I negotiated a lower interest rate for their mortgage and then had it put under my name so they could refinance without getting denied again. That evening, I sent them all one text. "Let's have a meeting. All of you tomorrow. My place. 6 p.m. I didn't expect them to agree, but they did. I think they thought I was going to undo everything. Say it had gone too far. Apologize for the drama. Maybe even offer more money. That's what I used to do." They arrived together the next day. My dad didn't sit. My mom brought some store-bought pastries like we were having tea. Ryan looked tired. The first thing he said was, "I need the car back, man." I held up a folder and placed it on the coffee table. Inside was everything. Loan documents, transfer receipts, bank statements. I let them sit with that for a second. Then I told them it was over. No more payments, no more cards, no more favors. Ryan laughed. Not a real laugh, more like disbelief. My mom asked me what they were supposed to do. My dad said, "You're really going to turn your back on your own family over a toast?" I said nothing. I opened the door and waited. They left one by one, not saying much. My mom lingered a little, but I didn't look at her. She walked out. That night, I blocked all 3 of them, and I slept better than I had in years. 3 days passed. No texts, no calls, not a single knock on my door. I figured maybe they were letting it sink in, maybe trying to process the fact that I wasn't going to come running this time. But deep down, I knew better. My family never reflected. They just retaliated. On Friday morning, I got a notification from the credit monitoring app. One use, new inquiry detected. Then another. I opened the app and stared at the screen. Someone had used my name, address, and social security number to apply for 2 credit cards. They weren't even trying to hide it. I already knew where it came from. A few years ago, I helped my parents file taxes and printed everything for them. SSN, W2S, full copies. They kept it all in a cabinet in the hallway, labeled and organized like a library. I had assumed it was safe. That assumption was gone now. I filed a fraud report, froze my credit, changed every password I'd ever used, every account, every backup email. By noon, they started the real performance. Ryan posted a long Facebook status, passive-aggressive, full of dramatic pauses and vague accusations. It was about false generosity and how some people use money to control and manipulate under the mask of helping. No names, just enough detail so everyone could fill in the blanks. He wrote, "Family means love, not debt." People started commenting. Old family friends, distant cousins. Some of them liked the post. Others sent me DMs asking what happened. I didn't reply. There wasn't a single version of the truth they'd be willing to hear. That night, I got home and saw something on my doormat. My spare house keys, the ones I gave my mom years ago. They were in a Ziploc bag, sitting under a receipt from a bakery. She didn't even write a note, just the receipt with her name printed at the top. I stood there staring at it for a while. It felt like a final gesture. Not a goodbye, more like a warning. The next day, I got a call from my landlord. He sounded confused. Someone had called the office claiming to be me, asking to update the lease and transfer payment responsibility. When they asked for verification, the caller hung up. My landlord reported the attempt as suspicious. I didn't need to guess. It was either my dad or my brother. They were starting to get desperate. So I drove by the house. I didn't get out. I didn't knock. I just parked down the street and watched. Their lawn was uncut. The mailbox was stuffed. Ryan's bike was gone from the side gate and there were no cars in the driveway anymore. The house looked like it was holding its breath. Then, Saturday evening, Ryan came back. This time, he didn't come alone. He brought his ex. I remembered her. Alyssa. She looked uncomfortable, didn't say a word. He did all the talking, pacing on my porch like he was rehearsing something. He said he lost his job the day after the car got repossessed. Said he was trying to get a new one, but the interviews were all out of town and buses weren't cutting it. Said Alyssa had been helping him out, but it wasn't enough. He looked at me like we were in this together. I just need the car for a few weeks, Rob. I'll bring it back. I'll even pay something. I didn't respond. Then he said something that stopped me cold. Mom's talking about selling the house. I looked at him. She's not sleeping. Dad's taking meds now. This whole thing, it's killing them. He thought that would sway me. That guilt would bring me back in. He stepped forward. You think this is just about the car? I finally answered. No, I think it's about you needing me more than you ever admitted. Then I closed the door. I changed my phone number that night. It felt like pulling the last root out of a dead tree. Changing my number wasn't dramatic. It wasn't revenge. It was just something I should have done a long time ago. I didn't announce it. I didn't give them one last message. I didn't owe them that, but I should have known. They weren't going to let it go. 2 days later, my work phone rang during lunch. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. I picked up and didn't say anything. It was my mom. The second she heard silence, she started talking. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask if I wanted to talk. She jumped straight into it like she had been rehearsing. We're worried about you. She said my dad was having trouble sleeping. Said Ryan hadn't been eating right. That he was depressed. She even said, your brother misses you. Like we were kids, and I had just stormed out of the room over a video game. She didn't mention the fraud. She didn't mention trying to access my lease. No apology, no accountability, just concern. Weaponized like always. Then she got to it. We need help, Rob. She said the mortgage company had sent a second notice, that the late fees were piling up, that their budget was stretched thin, that maybe, just for a few months, I could help cover it again while they figured things out. Said she hated asking. But you're the one we can count on. I hung up. Later that day, an email came through, this time from my dad. He said he was trying to give me space, but was reaching out as a father who still believes in his son. The tone was calm. Professional, even. He said the toast had been misinterpreted, that I took it the wrong way. He said it was meant to be a light moment, something to celebrate Ryan's win. Then came the second half, the real reason. He wrote they'd missed 2 mortgage payments. The bank had sent a final warning. The house was at risk. He said they were considering all options, but maybe it didn't have to come to that. Maybe I could reinstate the auto payments. Maybe we could get back to how things were. He signed it with, Love, Dad. Not a single word about the years I had propped them up. Not a word about what I gave, or what they took. The next day, a letter showed up in my mailbox, handwritten. I recognized my mom's cursive before I even opened it. She wrote about when I was little. About my Halloween costumes. About bedtime stories. About how I used to fall asleep on her shoulder during road trips. She said she missed that version of me. Said I used to be thoughtful, gentle, that I had pardoned. Then she shifted slowly into guilt. Said she and Dad were getting older, that they didn't have a plan, that they never expected this much distance between us. Then came the line that stuck with me. Don't let your pride destroy what's left of our family. Left. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I got a text from an old friend from college, someone I hadn't heard from in a while. He sent me a screenshot. It was from Ryan. Ryan had messaged him, asking if he could talk some sense into me. Said I was spiraling. Said he was worried I was going to cut everyone off forever over a misunderstanding. Told him I probably regretted everything and just needed a nudge to come back. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. That's when I made my final decision. I drove to the impound lot where the car had been sitting. Told the guy at the desk I didn't want it back. Not to reclaim it. Not to sell it. I had it towed to a locked garage under my name. Plates removed, insurance canceled, the title sealed away in a drawer. I wasn't giving it back. Not ever. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because it was never really theirs. They didn't respect it. They didn't earn it. And now, just like everything else they took from me, it was going to sit in silence, untouched, finished. The car was out of their lives, just like me. It's been 5 weeks. They haven't found a new way to contact me yet. Or maybe they finally gave up. Either way, the silence has settled in. My apartment feels different. It's quieter. Not just because they're gone, but because I'm not checking my phone every few minutes, waiting for the next obligation, the next ask, the next crisis I'd be expected to fix. I've started doing small things, unremarkable things, cooking meals I actually want, going for walks without checking the time, answering only calls I recognize. At night, I sleep through. No tension in my jaw. No guilt waiting under the surface. A few days ago, I saw Ryan's Instagram pop up under a mutual friend's story. He was at some house party, smiling like nothing ever happened, but I noticed he was holding a bus pass in his hand. It was barely visible in the background, tucked behind his phone. I didn't linger on the image. I just closed the app and moved on. Last week, I got a letter from the mortgage lender addressed to me. They'd started pre-foreclosure on the house. I knew it was coming. I didn't read the whole thing, just skimmed enough to understand that they were out of time. The house I helped save 3 times was about to slip through their fingers. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel guilty either. I felt distant, detached, like I'd woken up from a very long, very strange dream. My parents always made it seem like I was lucky they tolerated me, that I was too sensitive, too serious, too invested. They used those words often, and I swallowed them for years, thinking if I just did more, gave more, they'd stop looking at me like a guest in my own family. But they never did. I've learned that people who depend on you without respect never really love you. They just love the version of you that helps them stay afloat. The moment you stop being useful, the moment you ask for something in return, they call it betrayal. So, no, I didn't burn the bridge. I just walked off it. And when I looked back, it was already on fire. I'm not going back. Not now. Not ever. 3 months have passed. Life settled into a rhythm I never thought possible. Peaceful. Quiet. Free. I barely hear from anyone. No calls. No letters. No social media pings. It's like I stepped off a stormy pier and onto solid ground. Then yesterday, I got a knock at my door at 8 p.m. I almost didn't answer. My instinct is to ignore unexpected interruptions, but something told me to open it. Standing there was a woman I didn't recognize. Early 40s. Soft eyes. She handed me an envelope and said, "I think this is yours." No more words. Inside was a single photograph and a notarized statement. The photo showed my brother Ryan, bright eyes, messy hair, leaning on a crumpled note, a receipt from a DMV. The notarized letter said Ryan had transferred ownership of a car to someone else, not me. It was a restored 2008 hatchback, rusty but reliable. The note under the windshield wiper in the photo read, "For Robert, thanks for everything when I needed it." Then there was a short, handwritten letter from Ryan. "Rob, I was wrong. I took without understanding what I'd lost. This is not the fancy car. It's all I could get. My first car. I need you to have it. No strings. Love, Ryan. I stared at that letter for a long time. No guilt, no rush, just recognition that something had changed. That maybe, finally, the family I thought I'd lost was trying to find a way back, even if in the smallest of gestures. I didn't cry. I didn't rush to call him. I set the letter and photo on my desk next to the folder of loan documents I still haven't thrown away. Tonight I drove to the bank to recheck everything. I wanted to make sure this old hatchback wasn't some trick. But on the drive back, I realized it didn't matter. The car was intact. It was mine. No loans, no paperwork, just a gesture. I still don't know if I'll ever take that first step to reach out. Maybe I'll drive that car around town. Maybe I'll just let it sit in the garage for now. But for the first time, something inside me shifted. Not enough to forgive yet. Not enough to call it family again. But maybe enough to start wondering what could come next.